go. Good evening, friends. Good evening. Wow, it must be Christmas. I don't need a repeat. Good evening and welcome to Littleport Christian Spiritualist Church, this lovely, not as cold as it was last week, but still a little bit chilly Thursday night here in Littleport. Now remember, we are live on Facebook and YouTube, so please do not swear, because the microphone will pick it up and we will get in trouble. But thank you all so much for coming out to witness, with fingers crossed, he says, the proof and truth that life is indeed eternal. Now, you might notice that I'm a little bit lonely up here this week, so much so, we've gone for a small table. Of course, I still have Hannah and Sam over ready in Bully's special prize corner, and Reverend Alan, of course, is sitting there on bated breath, waiting to give us his reading tonight. But of course, I'm not going to introduce the medium tonight, because tonight you are lumbered, stuck, and enduring me. So good evening from me. Thank you, dear, thank you. That's so kind. For those that may wonder, I always take the last service in the year and the first service of the year. I thought that it made sense because they were really, really far apart from one way when they are literally together. But you do get a week off from me next week. But we will, of course, be back the week after. And 2023, we've got huge things going on. We've got the continuation of the Drum Healing Circle, which was absolutely amazing on Sunday. And well done to our crystal ball expert in residence, Eunice, for a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. We will, of course, have our workshops. We will continue to have our services on a Thursday night. Plus, there will be more mind, body, and spirit events. We're even talking about a cream tea psychic lunch one Sunday afternoon in spring. So, lots to look forward to. But of course, I digress, because back to tonight. It's our usual order of service. It's just unfortunate for you all that you've got to put up with my voice all night. But I'm sure you can cope. And at the very least, Spirit will probably give you some kudos for not falling asleep, Barry. But there you go. So thank you all again for coming, and let's open this evening, as we always do, by opening this service in prayer. As we say, Great Spirit, Father, Mother, God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together as friends, to witness your proof and your truth that love is eternal, that light shines forth from even the darkest places, and that comfort and kindness come from a multitude of wondrous and uplifting people, all joined together for one purpose, to prove that life is eternal and that love endures. And so, Great Spirit, as I place this service in your care and keeping, I make the statement as ever, that everything we do will be in the name of love, truth, and light. Amen. Well, friends, this is the point where I would usually give you a bit of philosophy. And if you thought that I was going to let you off because I was doing the mediumship, you are sorely mistaken. Because philosophy is spiritualism. We use many different ways of demonstrating what spiritualism is. But the philosophy of our way of life is what tells us how to do it. And of course, I would be wrong for saying that there is only one philosophy in the spiritualist movement, because there are many. But that in itself is the one sole philosophy that makes this way of life special. Because we recognize that we are all unique, that we are all individual. We all have our own hopes, our own dreams, our fears, our aspirations, and all of the things that brings us to where we are today is a great tapestry in what makes us who we are and where we fit with each other in the world. So if you think that spiritualism is just one thing, you're wrong. It's many things. And it can be many things to many people. But I am very much aware that very soon it will be Christmas. Everyone's all excited and looking forward to the birthday of Joshua Carpenter. Joshua Carpenter, born 2,000 years ago, came around just to make sure that everyone knew how to do what they were doing. And so we created an entirely new religion based upon that, rather than doing what he wanted us to do. And that was to get it right in the first place. People talk about gods, and one of the comments that we got recently, because we do get some positive and negative comments when you're in the social media world, is, so which God do you believe in out of all of the 13,000 that exist on planet Earth throughout history? But I gave an answer on our behalf that I always give, an answer that was unexpected. All of them and none of them. And that got a funny look. I said all of them and none of them because we spiritualists recognize that the Great Spirit, the divine source of life, is far bigger than any one box that we, limited in perception humans, can put it in. We recognize that all of these attempts to get it right were valid at the time. And that although we are having another bash at it now, we know that we are not 100% right when we describe the Great Spirit. But Spirit, every now and again, will try and kickstart a new way of thinking. And it was appropriate that at this time of year we do celebrate Christmas. Because Christmas is a time of remembering that we are together. Christmas is a time of remembering that we are going from darkness and waiting for the light. In the Christian tradition, that's a little baby being born in a stable, filling the world with hope. But there are many other traditions that recognize this time of year as being a time of coming from darkness into light. So do we discount all of those ways of thinking? Or do we recognize that something up there's trying to tell us something? That even in the darkest, coldest points of our life, there is still hope of a new shining light and a new day coming forward. 2,000 years ago, Joshua Carpenter taught people how to heal, how to commune with the world of spirit, how to love and be compassionate. What's wrong with that? It's the message that Spirit keeps giving us because we think we are doing it. But we then isolate swathes of people, restrict groups of people from that love and that compassion because of where they were born or how they were brought up. The message of Christmas is as simple as the message of spiritualism and as simple as the message of Christianity and all of the other beginnings of all of the other religions. It was given to me this evening in a rather colourful, unique way. And I'm not going to quote her exactly, but it is, just be kind. And if anybody wants to know what I'm talking about, come and have a look at my jumper after the service, because I will be wearing it. But the point is this: when it's dark, we need light. When it's cold, we need warmth. The Great Spirit can provide all of that to us. But I tell you what's easier, my friends. We're all here together in the same boat. So shine a light at each other's feet. Give an arm and a shoulder of warmth and love and compassion, because we are the universe made manifest. We are the living spirit. And it is at this time of year, in all of those traditions that refer to a sacred being of light, that we remember that we're halfway through it and the lights are coming. That soon, in a few months' time, the little daffodils are going to be poking their heads up through the snow, that the spring will be sprung, and that the warmth will return. Now, for the last 3 years, many people like me have made a prediction at this point of the year, and you all know what my thoughts are on fortune telling, so don't worry, I'm not breaking the habit of a lifetime. Everyone has said, oh, next year's going to be better. Next year's going to be great. And then we got slapped with COVID. Next year's going to be better, I can see it coming. And then COVID got worse. Next year, 2022, that's the year it's going to be all right. Yeah, and it's been great. But we've got through it, and we've got through it together. So what of 2023? I would be a fool if I did not say this. Don't expect too much to change just because a day on a calendar has flipped to the next one. What will make it change is if we all stand firm, stand together, look after each other, make a difference in each other's lives, be kind, be uplifting, be warming, and be a light on each other's path. That's how to make a difference. That's how to make 2023 a good year. By making it happen ourselves. Because there is a prayer that a certain son of a carpenter 2,000 years taught. And he said, say something like this. So it wasn't entirely supposed to be by rote, but there's nothing wrong if you struggle with prayers, as many people do, to have something to lean on and rely on. But there's a particular phrase in that prayer. On earth as it is in heaven. In actual fact, let's go back a line before, because I don't take things out of context. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, does that mean that we're all writing out a will and we're all going to be executors? No. Does that mean that a bloke called Will's going to turn up and be the second coming? Please, I hope not. Thy will literally means we will do what you want on earth as it is in heaven. And that's the message of Spirit. Make this place heavenly. Make this place nice. Make this place wondrous. We have a responsibility when we say that prayer. We have a responsibility when we say we are spiritual to bring upliftment, love, and light. So no matter what tradition you are from, no matter what star you follow, have a wondrous, uplifting Christmas, season of goodwill, and a beautiful new year. And let's make it a good one. Thank you all for listening, and God bless you all. And so now I know that there are a few faces that have not been here before, not at least for a divine service anyway. This is the point where we have a reading, where you all get a blessing from Spirit, and you get a couple of minutes without having to listen to me. Usually you get 45 minutes, but as it's Christmas, tough. But the point of the reading is simple. We used to, like everybody else, have a reading, and then the philosophy would follow on from that reading. But then we thought, you know what? If Spirit know what's going on, and if Spirit know what's going to happen, then they should know what the medium's going to speak about, because they're the ones telling him what to say. They should know which reading that the reader is going to pick, because they're the ones picking it for him. So we decided to put our money where our mouth is. And for God's sakes, Alan, I hope it's a good one. Now I'm bigging it up. But the point is this. We talk about evidence all the time. We can use that philosophy for evidence by having the reading that was picked independently and verified in secret after the philosophy to see whether Spirit are telling us what we need to do, or whether Nick's just spent 5 minutes boring the teeth off you for no good reason. So I say with great fear and trepidation, Reverend Alan, everyone, Reverend Alan.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody online. Tonight's reading is called At Christmas, and it's by Edgar Guest. A man is at his finest towards the finish of the year. He is almost what he should be. Almost what he should be when the Christmas season is here. Then he's thinking more of others than he thought the months before, and the laughter of his children is a joy worth toiling for. He is less selfish creature than at any other time. When the Christmas spirit rules him, he comes close to the sublime. When it's Christmas, man is bigger and is better in his parts. He is keener for the service that is prompted by the heart. All the petty thoughts and narrow themes to vanish for a while, and the true reward he is seeking is the glory of a smile. Then for others he is toiling. Somehow it seems to me that at Christmas he is almost what God wanted him to be. If I had to paint a picture of a man, I think I'd wait till he'd fought his selfish battles and had put aside his hate. I'd not catch him at his labours when his thoughts are all of self. On the long days and the dreary, when he's striving for himself. I'd not take him when he's sneering, when he's scornful or depressed, but I'd look at him at Christmas when he's shining at his best. Man is ever in a struggle, and he's oft misunderstood. There are days the worst that's in him is the master of the good, but at Christmas kindness rules him, and he puts himself aside, and his petty hates are vanquished, and his heart is open wide. Oh, I don't know how to say it, but somehow it seems to me that at Christmas man is almost what God sent him here to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Alan. And yes, I believe it does tie in. I mean, you could easily say that it was more luck than judgment because it's Christmas after all. But if you look at the themes and you look at the words, it shows that we're no fool. Sorry, I'm getting stuck in rhyme again, aren't I? That sometimes happens. And I believe it can be summed up in one simple phrase. Don't be a donut, be kind. That was close. I wasn't sure I could trust myself to do that, but I thought I'd give it a go. Well, friends, now it really is time to put our money where our mouth is and send out our healing thoughts to all those who are sick and suffering and in need of comfort. Now, we've still got a good number of people not here with us tonight because of the lurg. So please send them healing. Of course, Linda, who's unable to make it this week, our lovely medium from last week. Linda with a Y, not with an I. I haven't forgotten that. So do send her healing. And of course, Nicola, Andrew, Callum, Bethany, and of course, George, the Hulk. We know that you're watching, so hello to you all. And anyone you know who is in need of healing, send out your love and your thoughts. It's just like prayer, and it is the most important form of mediumship. And not only that, I implore you many, many times, don't forget to ask for yourself. And if anyone just heard noise from the kitchen, I think Santa's just probably turned up. It's where he usually hung around. So friends, let's send out our thoughts, begin with the healing prayer, and we will have our wonderful music to listen to and end with the word Amen. And so, we say, Great Spirit, Father, Mother God, here we bring unto you all those who are sick and suffering and in need of comfort, be they sick in mind, body, or spirit, that it may please thee to heal them. This we ask for those we know, for those we do not know, and those who have no one to ask for them. We ask for them now. Amen. Amen. Thank you, friends. And so, you lucky, lucky things, we're 2 minutes ahead of schedule, and I don't need to do any intros. So, let's get straight on with it. It's time for the mediumship demonstration. One of the wonderful things about this way of life is that everybody works differently. Everybody has a different way of giving out evidence and proof of survival. My purpose and my core intent is always about proof of survival. Yes, I do like the mushy stuff. Yes, I do like the uplifting stuff. And yes, I do like the messages of encouragement that come from the world of spirit. But at the same time, it's important that we know who and what and why it is coming through. So for me, it really is all about the evidence of proving who it is and identifying who it is before they give you a message. Point of fact is, if a random person came up to you in the street and said, do you know you really ought to be checking your glasses, and do you know that you ought to be changing your shoes? You'd look at them and say, what are you on about? But if you knew them, you might actually listen. So it's important to know who we're coming from. The second thing, of course, is please answer in a clear voice, yes, no, or don't know. Don't be afraid to say no or don't know, because that's my job to get it right. So if it's a no, it's a no. Please tell me. They are just as important as yeses. And not only that, everybody's nosy and wants to know what's going on in everyone's life. So, you know, if you answer, then people can have some upliftment themselves. But it also does give evidence to those that are listening that there is a world of spirit. And of course, should the table start dragging across the floor, should the chairs start lifting and spinning round, and the curtains start ripping off the rails, that's the main entrance. You can follow me. I'll be the first one out. I don't very often say that anymore, but I think considering I said that at a particular demo once a long time ago, I thought it was time to bring it back. And so, friends, let's begin. One of the things that I find is that when I start linking into spirit and do that little shenanigans before the first message, it usually ties in some way to the first recipient. Everything I say is from spirit when I'm stood up here working, so usually it's some indication. So I'm very much aware, thank you, that the person coming through does have quite a sense of humour, however, does like to repeat themselves frequently, and would, thank you, oh great, would have told the same jokes over and over and over again, and every time they told them they thought that they were really, really funny. May I come to you, please, sir? Yes. I'm very much aware of a gentleman building up here who did have a really great sense of humour, however occasionally somewhat repetitive. I'm also very much aware, thank you, because he's telling me, oh, this is good, they're talking to me tonight, rather than just showing me pictures and making me feel things. He's telling me, see, I will say that because he is telling me that he was not just repetitive in humour, but he also liked to make sure that people understood what they were required to do. And so he would find himself having to repeat himself frequently, especially with you. Sorry, that's what he's saying. I'm very much aware that he has, of course, been in your thoughts a lot this week. That's not evidence, that's just a fact, that's the time of year. But he is very much aware that this is a time that you would think and remember all of the difficulties, frustrations, arguments about what colour the tinsel's going to be and all that sort of. I feel that there would have been disagreement about what was appropriate for the time of year. So don't think for a second, don't think for a second that you get off lightly this year because you're amongst a load of loonies that can still tell you. And he did use that phrase, amongst a load, so I don't feel that he was entirely convinced by this way of life. He does find it quite amusing that you'd only got one Christmas t-shirt and typically its main theme is grey. Because he says you still need an injection of colour. He's referring to the fact that you've gone all Christmassy and all out, and the only steady on love. The only thing that most people can see, although be grateful the camera's looking this way, the only thing that everybody else can see is a red collar and a red t-shirt, and the rest is white and grey. But that sums you up left, right, and centre. Because he was always encouraging you to be more colourful and more vivacious, darling. Vivacious is a word that I was given. Would you understand all that, or am I just talking to myself? Yes. Thank you. I'm also very much aware that in spite of all of that, he's a little bit nervous. He's a little bit nervous being up here. He's also shaking, and I don't feel it's just nerves. I feel it is a very powerful, loving emotion. That in spite of all of the silliness, the frivolity, in spite of all of the sarky comments, in spite of all of the jokes, the compassion oozed out of him. And he's saying, of course it oozed out of me because I didn't know how to say it, so it had to come out some way. And so once again, he can't be serious for a second, at least not in public. He was more serious when it was just you two. Just not much. And that was from me, not him, I will say, because I'm picking it up from him. And one of the great things about being a medium is that if they're telling me a fib, I can tell. If only it worked on the living. Or the living spirit, I should say. Stand corrected, thank you very much. He was also someone who liked to get involved and become an expert on subjects that he wasn't always interested in, just to wind people up. Because it was him that corrected me about the living spirit, not just the word living. So he's like, you missed that one, you forgot that one. So it's all that rigmarole of taking the mick. But in a kind way. It wasn't done to be spiteful, it was just funny the first 10 times. So once again, he's referring to that repetitiveness. He's talking about repetitiveness for a reason, because he is concerned that there is an element of repetitiveness in your life, and you are not. Once again, he's referring to the injection of colour, but this time in its injection of upliftment and change to routine and doing things different. So just be aware that he's thinking and referring to that. You do what you want to do with your life. They can't tell you what to do, but, you know, he was the kind of person that would tell you anyway. So there we are, you know, have that. It was like, there you are, have that. Okay. I'm reminded, again, they do like using things. I'm reminded of my gift that I got this evening, of a wonderful wordy badge that has great meaning and great purpose, and they are really trying to get me to say it, but I am not going to. I am promising you all. But he's reminding me of a badge that also had some kind of message on it that wasn't necessarily available to everyone's tastes and decency. So I don't know if you would remember that. It was kind of like some naughty words that I'm not going to repeat. Even though he's still trying, because he would try and bait people to slip up in public. I also have to give you, thank you, what's that? Go back. I was going to say April, but it's August, around about August the 25th as an anniversary in connection with either you or him. I also have to, okay. Now, I know very little about you, and I certainly know nothing about you before you walked in this wonderful hall. But I'm being shown that when you were growing up, you were in an area where there were lots of trees and places you could go and run and play and hide and injure yourself and get stuck. And he's talking about a memory of when you were mucking around in the soil. I am not saying that. When you were enjoying yourself in a colourful way in the soil, being very cheerful and upbeat. I'll tell you the word he used later because it's private. But I believe one of the, I like it, one of the reindeers did it. But yes, so he's talking about this, and you got stuck and someone had to come and free you, either get you down or get you back up or whatever. But there was this getting stuck. As a memory link. And what he's saying is he's referring to this because he wants you to know that a moment of sweetness in a tirade of abuse. He says that's an important memory because don't forget that whenever you feel lost in the woods, whenever you get stuck, he's there watching to be able to laugh at you and then help you out. So do take his love, his laughter, upliftment. Have a wonderful Christmas from him. Enjoy everything you do. And please continue to move forward and live your life. And I'll say God bless you and thank you for listening. Right. It's going to be one of those nights. Insulting people. It's a wonderful job, you know. Okay, who's about next? Oh, no, I've just been corrected on that. I have a lady that's stepping forward now and has suddenly become all very serious but I don't think it's going to last, because she's putting on this faux sense of seriousness, as if to say, come on, you know, we've got to behave ourselves. And then she had this naughty little glint in her eye. I do feel motherly, grandmotherly with this lady. I'm very much aware that her hair would have been pulled back. And although she could play the, what's that word again? Okay. Although she could play the educator, although she could play the disciplinary figure, she was in her heart a really, really funny, uplifting, giggly sort of person who would find what you were doing funny, tell you off for it, and then go and laugh later so you couldn't be seen, or at least most of the time. As she stands here, she's standing at around about this height with me, little bit more padded on the waistline. Barry, could I come to you? Would you understand this lady that I'm describing? You're not quite sure. Would you understand that you've got a grandmother who looks like one of your sisters? More like one of your sisters than, say, for instance, you, which she says is quite fortunate for her. Okay, that's fine. Okay. You're not going to start arguing with her, are you? Actually, there's a reason for that, because she's talking about actually your indecidedness as to when you were a child. It hasn't changed, by the way, but there's nothing wrong with that. And that you would question her in a appropriate manner. But would you understand a grandmother figure that may or may not have looked like one of your sisters, beside from your view, but you would have actually sat and spoke to her and talked about her and asked her questions and asked her to repeat herself and got information about her life and your life? And do you remember doing it? Right. Of course, yes. Apologies. Yeah. Would you also understand that she was not the stereotypical grandmother? Because she just, and this is, some of the things I have to see and have to describe are really quite ridiculous. She just stood here with a pinny, an apron and all that stuff, and a rolling pin, and she just went over her shoulder, ripped the pin off, and she's looking all glam and stylish and shiny and lovely, and she wasn't interested in all of that stuff. She was more interested in living her life. Although she did say the rolling pin did come in handy sometimes, but usually if she threw it over the back of her shoulder, if it hit someone, it was their fault, not hers. It wasn't deliberate. And it's that kind of humour that she wants to bring forward. It's that kind of attitude that she wants to bring forward for you, because what she's telling me, again, they're talking to me tonight, lovely. What she's telling me is that she didn't suffer fools gladly. She didn't tolerate being dictated to. She was a very modern model of a modern mama. No, I can't think of another M, but you know what I mean. And again, with that humour and the limerick, I know I had a grandmother who came up with naughty limericks. I don't think hers would have been as naughty as mine, but she certainly would have given her a good run for her money. And she is all about that breaking moulds, that changing stereotypes, that bringing fun and upliftment, because she was looking quite serious and all very tidy and smart, but she's just done this again and ripped it off, and she's revealed a lovely sequin dress. So I do feel that she could probably have changed 2 or 3 times a day, but she did love to glam it up, and certainly today is all about getting dressed and going out and looking great. And she's saying, you know, I think they've been conspiring. She's saying, you could do with going and getting some colours just like he could. See, they do listen and get involved and interact with each other. So, she says, brighten yourself up, Barry. Brighten yourself up. She says, your heart is brighter. Your eyes are brighter. Your mind is brighter. Think about where you were a year ago compared to where you are now. Yes, I know that I would know this, but I don't know exactly what's in your head. And I do know that she's telling me, and I haven't seen you for a week, so here's the bit that comes that proves it, I hope. In the last week, you've actually done a lot of reflecting and started to realise just how different you are now compared to a year ago. And let's not even talk about how you were when you first walked in the door. Okay, memory link time. She says, don't you talk to me about him walking in the door, because he would always leave footprints. He was a filthy, so she's reminding me of the fact that at least he wipes his feet now when he comes in his own home, but I think it's probably because the cats would tell him off if he didn't. Because the cats do rule the roost. That's new. The cats rule the roost and tell you what to do and when to do it. They keep you in check rather than the other way round. She says, you want to be careful. She was a very knowledgeable lady about history, I have to say, and I'm not just saying that because of what she's just said to me. She was very knowledgeable, she was very learned, because she's just made another joke, but she says, be careful. That's what happened to them with the pyramids. Walk like an Egyptian. So she just wants to bring that humour back, bring that up, and the connections she would have understood about history. And she was a very knowledgeable lady as well, because that's how she's tying it in. I also have to give, thank you. Okay. I'd suddenly realised that none of my links so far have done what they would normally do when I'm kind of in control of things, and give me conditions of passing. And she said, well, it is Christmas. We want to be uplifted. So she wouldn't have spoken about her health issues. Certainly to a what's it like me. She would have been very unsure of me to begin with. I think we'd have probably ended up getting on all right, but she was very, very dodgy with strangers, especially strangers that stood up and talked all of this. So she just wants to bring forward that upliftment, that joy, and remind you about being bright and cheerful and colourful, but also to congratulate you. Because no matter what anyone in this room has done to help you become the person you are now, the person who has made it happen is you. You can take a horse to water, but you can't stuff its head underneath the surface until it's drinking, because that would be criminal. And that's her, once again, her humour. She didn't use, thank you, she didn't use normal phrases. She would make her own up and add to them and take them away and make them fit her purposes. And I do feel that this is something that has carried on in the family. And I refer again to the sister. There is a similarity. Maybe it's a verbal similarity rather than a visual one. But it's this making up of phrases. You know, everyone likes to use a turn of phrase, but she used to make her own, because that's called being unique, Nick. Okay. So do take her love, her upliftment, and her congratulations. And of course, she would say, have a merry, merry Christmas. And don't eat the mince pies, leave them for Santa, she's just saying. God bless you, mate. Right, where are we going next? Okay. She said, don't look at them. Don't look at them. Okay. So, once again, I have another lady coming forward. Oh, thank you. I spoke too soon about the ailments, didn't I? I'm very much aware that I am starting to stoop forward now, and I do feel a lot of pain in my back and in my lower back, but I do feel that it would burn across my shoulders. I do feel that there would have been a problem with the shoulders in particular, either physical, visual, or just pain. And I do feel that towards the end of her life, she would have done what I call the 1 foot shuffle. So she would have walked with 1 foot leading and basically dragged the other one around, because there would have been a problem physically that would have caused one side of her. So it could have been a stroke or Bell's palsy or something like that, where one side of her was weaker than the other. But she was a stern lady, because she said, don't you think for a second that just because my physical let me down, that I was as sharp as a button and as keen as a knife up there. And I know I said it the wrong way round, because that's her sense of humour too. Somebody needs to answer the phone. Oh, and it would be you, wouldn't it? The one who sits at the back of the hall and says, don't forget to tell them to turn the phones off. This lady is finding it quite amusing, actually. Oh, okay, I did wonder. Because you're where I'm coming, and I don't know who this lady is, so I know it's not family. Mother, it's for you. The message. I now know why they had me take my glasses off and put my readers on, because I'm not supposed to see where I'm going. And I was told that I would find out, and there we go. Would you understand that everything I just described, if you were listening, because I know you don't expect to get a message? So this lady was very sharp, very funny. She used to get her catchphrases mixed up. She'd had a stroke or Bell's palsy or something. She's really trying to get through to you. I just gotta get a message to you. Oh, Lord. Oh, you couldn't plan this. I'll tell you what, you couldn't write it either. Wonderful. Are you with us? Do you know what? Giving a message to my mother is like contacting spirit. You never know what you're going to get. So she would have had a stroke or a Bell's palsy. She was a bit weak on one side, so she would have led with one side when she was moving around. I know that you used to look after a load of ladies that needed support and help, so this is her opportunity to prove me wrong and you wrong, that I never give you a message. Would you understand that this is one of your girls? And she does use that phrase, one of my girls, so I believe that she would have called you one of her girls. And I also believe that that whole bit about, you know, that I'm sharp as a button and quick as a knife, you know, she would get the phrases mixed up and swapped round, and she sometimes did it deliberately because it was funny and she was used to it, but it also... Thank you. It also covered up an underlying condition that not everybody noticed, but you were one of the ones that did notice. Once again, her humour... Oh, the other thing, there was a problem with the shoulders and she was very hunched, you know. See, I wouldn't have had that back if you'd have been listening. But that whole banter, you know, that were you listening? All this is from her, not me having a pop and having a laugh even. It's part of the message. This is how she would have been. She would have made sure that you were listening. She would have told you something while you were working and then asked you to repeat what she'd just said to make sure that you'd understood and heard. So I do feel that there was this little bit of forcefulness about her. But nonetheless, such a sweet, sweet lady with such a wonderfully uplifting sense of humour, who would have really made your day to go and see. She would also find this funny, because she would have turned round and... Because everybody who's regular would know that I never give my mother a message, because it doesn't prove anything. Fat what I know, eh? And she would have just said, well, it is Christmas. So once again, that sort of sense of humour. She is saying that she does like the colour of your scarf, because it would have matched her living room. because she's showing me her living room and all of the colours are there. Every single one of those colours in that scarf would have been in her room, in the curtains, in the throws. She would have had them all basic crochet over the back, but she does like what you do. But she is commenting that you don't do nearly enough of it. And if you'd have done it her way, you'd have been done a lot quicker as well, because it's full of holes, so you're not doing as much work. So once again, she was always about cutting corners and making life easier. Even though she was quite stern and she didn't mind the cutting of corners if it made people's lives easier. Apart from when it came to food. There were no corner cuts in food. Would you understand that? So I give you that. I still haven't got a clue who she is because I never met all of your ladies. I only met two, to be fair, and that was only because I knew one already. But the thing about the glasses, I have to go back to that. As much as it was about me not knowing where I was going and not being allowed to know where I was going, also I do feel that she had the same problem I do about getting them mixed up and having to sit and do that all the time. And even though she'd put them on, she said, no, it's not that. No, it's not that, so it must be that one. No, it's that one. So I feel that there would be more than just a quick swap. It would be a whole rigmarole with the playing of the glasses. Of course, she does want to wish you a very, very Merry Christmas, because let's face it, it's the final service of the year, it's going to be Christmas, and they all want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. But I will leave her love and her laughter and her fond, fond memories. And I will also leave with you her fond, fond memories, because I do feel that she would have repeated herself when you were getting ready to leave, and it was nothing to do with her state of mind. It was about slowing you down so you didn't go as quickly. So I'll say God bless you and remind you of the fond, fond memories, and say God bless and thank you for listening. Okay. All right, I'm ready. Right, okay. Up until now, the people that have been coming through have been very energetic, very busy. I don't know whether my guides have decided that they want me to slow down for a minute and catch a breath, or whether, no, it's definitely the other way around. It's a bit of both, he says. This gentleman was much more deliberate, much more paced, much more slower, much more steady. Thank you. Eunice, may I come to you? In all the time I've known you, I think I've only ever given you one message. And I know it was a female, so I know I'm not repeating myself. And this is someone who is not noticed by everyone, because he was somewhat back. And he's really, really difficult to drag it out of as well, because he certainly, and I can actually, again, the shakings come back, because he feels really, really nervous being in front of everybody. So it's almost like he would have struggled to speak publicly, or he would have felt really out of sorts. In actual fact, as I look around and I've got all these eyes peering at me, and it says, more fool you. So I know that he wouldn't have liked to have been the centre of attention. I do feel a condition of passing around this area with him. And I do want to... Okay, no. See, I was about to get it wrong. He does know what he's doing, and he's really, really good at communicating, but usually he doesn't come through mediums. He mostly comes direct to you. Would you understand that? Because you are very much aware of him, and you are very much aware of him around you, but he doesn't come through mediums, because what's the point? And once again, the old catchphrase, well, it is Christmas. And I was about to say, he wants to come up and give you a real big hug, but then he said, no, I would take her over to the corner so no one was watching, because public displays of affection are absolutely ridiculous. He would have felt very uncomfortable in an environment like this when everyone's hugging each other at the end of the day. But he would give you a hug, but it would be more of a private moment, take you in the corner, give you a, oh, it's Christmas, give us a, you know. So he really does want to let you know that it is just a surprise. Also, once again, reminding anyone who is a developing medium, including myself, because we're always developing, you never stop, otherwise you're a fool, reminding everyone that no matter how much you think you know about someone, there's always something new to learn. And I have, to say that I've never noticed him would be a lie, because I do recognize his energy, so I know he's around you almost as much as a guide would be, if not more. And I am very much aware that he was giving you support on Sunday, because you felt that nervous energy, and you were, thank you, you were reminded of him when you stood up and took that first deep breath, as if to say, right, I've got to do this, and you were reminded of him, because he would have struggled with that. On the topic anyway. He was very knowledgeable about his stuff, and he could sit and hold court, but it had to be less formal with him. He wasn't a dictator. He liked to hold court, but it was his court. It would be, you know, warm fires and cups of cocoa rather than glasses of water, cameras, and, you know, healing books and all that sort of stuff. However, as he's seen this way of life, he's certainly started to get into it, and has taken an interest, although he still says that he was right and everyone else was wrong. And I do feel he would have thrown that sort of humour in. So once again, big Christmas hug. Just wanted to step in and say hi. And he says, I have to go now because she wouldn't want me giving anything away. And I will say, God bless you, and thank you for listening. Anybody asleep yet? Just so you know, if you do nod off, you just call it meditating in a spiritualist church, so it's fine. Okay. May I come to you? There is a gentleman building up here. He's another one who's just taking it steady at the moment, weighing me up a bit. But once again, that comment about the falling asleep and meditating, there was a bit of humour in that, because he said everyone would know if I was meditating, because I would have been snoring. So I do feel that he would have been a snorer. So that's number one, but let's find out a little bit more than that, because a lot of people snore. Okay. Once again, we've met a couple of times and we've spoken for about 10 minutes about spiritual things, so I don't really know anything about your life. But I do know that this gentleman has something very much in common with you, which I wouldn't have said, but he says it is, that you are someone who does sit back and weigh people up. And it is that thing that he's wanting to highlight with him. It's almost like you get it from him. It was a lesson you learned from him. So I do feel that this gentleman would have been a man who would have had a very strong impact on your life, even if he did snore. But because then once again, as he started to get used to people, he would warm up and he would start being a little bit more open. But here's the important thing. There was a public openness, and he knew exactly what he would let people know. He knew exactly what he would tell them, and it was a tiny acorn compared to the oak tree that was him. And I use that phrase specifically because he did. So I don't know whether there would have been a connection with acorns and oak trees with him. But what he let people know about himself was the acorn compared to the tree. However, because of how he did it, which is another thing that you have learned in your time, he says, you're not as good as me. But you give that information in such a way that people feel like that acorn is the tree. And he was very adept at doing this because he would make people think that they knew everything about him. And he's like, oh, nah. And I keep asking for that relational connection, but he was someone who didn't necessarily want to express emotions in a public forum, so he wasn't going to give it to me initially, just by way of proving and demonstrating that that was his attitude. However, I do feel so much love for you. It's just a shame that he couldn't say it as much as you felt it. And those are his words, not mine. He's an overglass looker as well, because it's the first time I've done that tonight. And he doesn't like my glasses. They're far too loose. Things should be organised and tidy and tight. He was all about conformity and formality and structure. And, you know, to have a pair of glasses that were loose would have driven him nuts. In actual fact, he's just shown me himself. I believe this is a memory link, or it's just a demonstration of his character. But if he had to wear a pair of glasses that were loose like this, it had just took him off and chucked him across the room. And he did have a little bit of a temper about him when it comes to stuff like that. But it's all his way of showing who he was. Because as you have grown as a person, as much as there was so much love and compassion, there are certain things that you would hope, from a different perspective, he would change. Behaviourally, emotionally. Nothing massive or serious, but it's that wistful, I hope, I wish he would do this and he would do that, or he would understand this or he would understand that. Because as much as there is this compassion, I do know that you two would have been able to strip the paint off the walls with your conversations, because there was enough respect in that relationship to be able to do that. And although you thought at the time it was quite frustrating, you got more of that kind of conversation than other people did, because he would have shut them down instantly. You got to argue your case. Whether you were right or wrong is irrelevant. And that, once again, his words, as he would have been, whether you were right or wrong would be irrelevant. And so he would emphasise the bit that he wanted, because he was also very good with his words. So I don't know whether it was to do with what he did for a living or whether he was just clever. But he was very good with using his words to get out of people what he wanted. It's funny because I've just seen him smile for the first time. And that smile is very similar to yours, the way it goes up one side. And he says, still working on it, but I've made a start. And there's just that little grin, as if to say, I'm not changing, but I am. Go easy on yourself is what he's telling me to say to you, because of all of these difficult topics that he's broached, and I know that there are some difficult emotions there have been times when you've chastised yourself, and even the way I'm speaking is very formal and very different to everybody else that's come through tonight, using fancy words and big words to make himself look good, and, you know, chastised being one of them. You have chastised yourself in the past, and I would say not too far in the past, quite recently, for doing things and then realizing, God, that's him. And your fear of that, because you try so hard to be completely different. He says it's no effort. You are completely different. And those fears and those worries that you have should be negated, because you are your own person, which is why I allowed you to argue your case. He's not going to take responsibility for that, because you always had it in it to be a steady, argumentative little what's it, but that's a good thing, because it has served you so well. He's also frowning at me because I've got my hand in my pocket, and he would be telling me off for doing that right now. But it's because the reason it's there is because everything I do is spirit-based. And the only time it goes in there is when they start to relax. He wouldn't have liked that, but it's going in there because he is starting to chill out. And so he says that he wanted to tell you that because, once again, that phrase, that joke, that's the theme of the evening. It is Christmas. So I will relax a little. But he just wants to remind you that it wasn't ever ill meant. There was always good intent, no matter how things went. He's reminding me of the address. And because I said, I haven't given any parting gifts tonight. Do you want to give a parting gift? And he went, do I what? But he's reminding me of the address, and he's reminding me of the bit about shining. And for all the things that you might or might not have expected him to say, he just wants you to carry on shining like a star. Because you do, and maybe he didn't say it as much as he should have done, but you do. And keep going and keep making a difference to people's lives, because everything you do is worthwhile every single time. And although people can't always say thank you, they feel it. And he knows that it might not have been enough for him, but it certainly is enough to know for you that you do make a difference in people's lives. So carry on shining, and I'll say God bless you. Oh, there it is. Where am I going? Okay. Once again, this lady that's coming through is quite a formal lady, because I said, where am I going? She said, well, wouldn't you like to talk to me first? It's all very well you standing up there and saying, where are you going? It would be nice if you knew who you were talking to first, wouldn't it? So I do feel that she would have been aware of this life. I do feel she might have been aware of it, but not necessarily massively involved, but she would have had an understanding, and certainly that understanding would have grown over the years, especially the years that she's been up there, so I know it's been a good couple. I also know that she would have been very dizzy towards the end of her life. I know that she would have struggled with the train of thought, and speech would have been an issue. And I am very much aware of a condition that would have affected her around here. And it's going all the way through, so I don't know whether it's front or back, but it's certainly in this area here. A very private lady, actually, because, she's giving me a general area and saying, some things we don't talk about, dear. As much as there is this formality about her, she did say, you've only got 6 minutes left, so it's a good idea if you have some fun. So she is bringing the fun back in and injecting a bit of humour into the proceedings, although it wouldn't necessarily be expected, because I do know from how I feel with her, there is a great deal of emotion. And she said, no, that's nausea, dear. But no, there is nausea there. She's added it in, but I do know that there is a great deal of emotion connected to this lady. And I know that she would have, towards the end of her life, struggled for breath a bit, because I'm starting to feel that now. And I know that when it came to having difficult conversations, she wouldn't always look people in the eye, because I'm not able to look any of you in the eye at the moment, and that's her stopping me from looking at the person directly as she's building this up. I'm also very much aware that whoever it is that I'm coming to would have tied her shoelaces up for her a lot, because I'm looking down and I can see my shoelaces undone all over the place. And may I come to you, Esther? Would you understand that, lady? That's a start. It's better than a no, isn't it? Again, I have to go back to the description. I do have to mention the condition of passing. There was nausea. There's something around this area here. I know that she would have had a rough back. Okay. She had a sense of humour about her health, but that's because she didn't tell everybody every single detail, and I believe I mentioned that already, that privacy, we don't do these sorts of things, do you? And I do know, thank you, that she's been gone a few years. I do feel motherly towards you, but again, that could be mother, grandmother, so we haven't nailed it yet, and you would have known if it was one, so I'm going to say it's thank you. She was a very logical grandmother, your grandmother, wasn't she? Because she said, work it out. I was like, okay, fine. She could be a little bit snippy when you didn't get the obvious. And it's just like, it's obvious. If it's not one, it's going to be the other. You've only mentioned 2 relationships, you fool. And she wouldn't have... Thank you. She found your badge hilarious, because she wouldn't have cared whether it was a church or not. She'd have said it if she wanted to say it. So I've got to watch my P's and Q's with this one, because I'm in trouble if not. Good way to end 2022, get booted off Facebook for swearing. YouTube don't care. And I do feel that in spite of her frailty, even when she was frail, she wasn't, because I'm standing here and I'm feeling really, really restricted and crunching down and getting... And yet I'm waving my arms about and creating this huge noise and this huge buzz, and, you know, so she would have been the kind... Thank you. I know, because this lady is who she is, that you will not take this as an insult, because it's a phrase that she used. She said, I really literally was the crazy old lady in the street in my slippers and my nightie shouting at everyone. And so, you know, I do feel that she probably would have done that once or twice, although I knew what I was doing. So she says. I think she did. She just didn't care. She did have boundaries, she did have morals, but she knew when to cross them and when not to. And she enjoyed crossing those boundaries. She is such a fun lady to come through to. She says, there was a sweet innocence about her as well. Because as I realised that she's my last message of the evening, she says, me, what an honour. The last message of 2022 in this hall. Isn't that lovely? And then she just pulled a snarky face and was like, yeah, whatever. So, you know, once again, that humour about not letting things be too serious. This was her life message, her lesson in life, is not to take things too seriously. And every time you think of her, I can see just by the look on your face, you are reminded of all of the wonderfully crazy nutbag stuff she would say and do and not care. I don't know whether this is a memory link or just part of her character, but she just stood there and she says, just be glad that you're not one of the ones that come knocking on my door. And she said that quite forcefully, so I'm a little bit scared now. And I certainly wouldn't have done, but, you know, people, when they knocked on... Thank you. In all seriousness, when they knocked on her door, they met her because she was real. And she was honest. And sometimes it was brutal, and sometimes it was just taken as it was intended. Because of all the things she said and did in her life, she followed that rule. Just be kind. Thank you. She never likes to be too emotional because she said, sometimes it can be just be kind of annoyed. So I do feel that once again, that fire, she never lost, thank you. She said, I lost a lot of things in my life, but I never lost my passion and my fire and my drive. And it was the one thing that carried me through. And she says, she's definitely my girl. Because as part of, I'm not saying that. Oh, go on, it's Christmas. Apart from the knickers and the slippers, you're just like me, darling. You'll say it as it is. And you need to. I don't do fortune telling, ever. But they are aware of things that are going on around us. So what she does say is that fire will carry you through because there is a lot to do, a lot to sort out, a lot to deal with. And if you need to borrow him a slipper, you can do that as well. And she's obsessed with her slippers. You might have noticed I've said it about 7 times so far. But, okay. She says, I am going to give you a present. And she was really going, I am going to give you a present. And she just put her hand in her pocket and brought out a lovely toffee. And she says, Merry Christmas. And as she starts to back away, I have to do this. And it's a very specific wave, so I'll just go like that. And I'll say, God bless you. And thank you for listening. In actual fact, thank you all for listening. I hope you've had a wonderful evening. That's the mediumship for 2022. God bless you all. And now, because I'm done working, I'm allowed to drink it out the bottle. So, friends, again, the service ends up being shorter when I'm doing the demo because I don't have to go through all the that was Nick and all that stuff. But what I do have to say is, of course, every week we talk about being kind, about being uplifting, about sharing the love, and about making the world a better place. Please, please, please remember that it is that emotion, it is that feeling, it is that love that sets us apart as a way of life, as a group of people that come together every week. And I know that I am preaching to the converted when I say we might not see each other again in this hall until January 2023. But carry on taking the message of spirit. Carry on taking the message of love, of kindness, of warmth and compassion out into the world, and do not give an inch, because you, my friends, can, do, and will make a difference in every life you touch. Never underestimate your power and never let anyone take it away. So with that being said, God bless you all, and let's pray. As we say, Great Spirit, Father, Mother, God, we thank you for the opportunity to unite under your banner of love, of hope and friendship. We thank you for the opportunity to come together as friends in this place and this space that is dedicated to your name and your work. And we thank you for the opportunity to reach out and be reached out to by those that have gone before us, who wish us well, who wish us happy times, and who wish us all upliftment and light in our lives. Let us take that message of love and of hope with us in everything we do and in each day as we pass through each day of the next few weeks until we meet again. And let us remember that in times of difficulty and in times of struggle, we do not ask you to move the mountain. Just give us the strength to climb. Until we meet again in your name. Amen. Well, friends, that's 2022 done with. Can you believe how quickly it's gone? It only feels like 5 minutes since I last stood up here and said that, although it was 21, not 22, so you know. But of course, for everyone at home, we'll be going in a minute, but for all of us here, we will be enjoying the raffle, enjoying tea and coffee and biscuits. We've got so much to do. We've got the Guess Freddie's birthday raffle. We have got the raffle of the wonderful Christmas hamper that was donated by Ivy. We've, of course, as always, got encaustic art a la Hannah, and we've got the main raffle there. But tradition is, as tradition does, for everyone who wants to see Bully's special prize and do a print screen grab and copy and paste at home, so they've got their own copy, this is Hannah's encaustic art gift to us this week. And you will be able to turn it in many different ways and different angles. And because it's wax, you will see lots of lovely things in there. Just like what we were doing on Sunday. Isn't that right, Eunice? She's gone to sleep. We were doing this sort of thing on Sunday, weren't we? Looking for things in objects. And in actual fact, we had a newbie turn up on Sunday who did very, very well and will be back, but couldn't be back today because she's working. But there we are. That's 2022. Thank you all so very much to everyone at home from all of us here in Littleport Village Hall. Go on, let's raise the roof and make them hear us. After 3, 1, 2, 3. Good night, and God bless you all. Hit it, Maestro.